Like we are looking at three things now: legal,
Secretarial,
and
compliance.
What is their activity?
Yeah.
With an example.
One of the key areas of all these three, secretarial, legal and compliance and governance, is also to manage the stakeholders. When I say managing the stakeholders, this is a very key area of secretarial department also, where you have to handle investors,
Right.
you have to handle vendors, you have to handle regulators, you have to handle government agencies.
What would be a typical, because you're kind of a VP now.
Yeah.
So what would be the role of a vice president in a compliance team? What he's doing on a day-to-day basis? If you can give a glimpse of that.
Yes. So I have around 70 companies in my group. So my typical day as a in my role as a company secretary, I have to ensure that there is a time the activities are done in a timely basis.
And now suppose if somebody wants to join this team of legal compliance, what are the core skill set that he should have?
Analyzing the laws, analyzing the compliance from the assignment, if any activity is given, for example IPO, for example fundraising, for example M&A.
Suppose if you're starting your career now and you want to become a group head of compliance, how will you go ahead and do it? Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become better version of themselves. And I also help students preparing for competitive exams like CFA, FRM and SCR. And as a part of that journey, we also get people from the industry to talk about what is there in finance career. And today we have with us Mr. Bhavik Gala, and he's going to be talking about what is the role that he's doing and what is the career opportunity which is there in the current market. So Bhavik sir, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. For the audience, if you can give a brief in terms of your journey and how did you ended up getting into a compliance legal role?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ganeshji. First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity and the platform to share my views. Just a disclaimer, these are my personal views and not to my organization. Yes, so yeah, so I started my compliance and governance journey. So like any commerce graduate would like to go have options with respect to professional this thing, which is a CA course or a CS course or a CWA course. Now it's a CMA course, cost and management accountant course. So my inclination was more towards legal and more towards laws related framework, where I thought I would be able to contribute my professional journey and my acumen and skills in that field. So I started my company secretaryship course from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. They are the professional institute governed by the government of India. And this course is similar to a CA course. And there are 3 stages: foundation, executive and professional. And you can start after your 12th standard, your HSC by foundation. And there is a entrance exam now, and or you can do after your graduation also, where you have to do 2 levels. And the course is encompassing not only the legal or the laws, but also it has everything into the domain. When I say everything, it is also having some portion of statistics, some portion of accounts, and also other areas like IT. So it's a wholesome course. So people generally have a mistaken understanding, where the course is only with respect to, what do we say, with laws, only with laws, but it's a 360 degree course. And so I got inclined towards that, and I completed my company secretaryship course in 2007. And by the time I also became commerce graduate in 2006. And I also did my law separately after my graduation in 2009. So, but I would say this is more focused. If you have done your CS course, then your law through any university becomes a little bit more easier for you, because this is you can say 10 times more in a holistic way covered. by the institute.
Okay.
And yes, so that is where
You started your professional journey.
my professional journey. Yes.
Right. And overall, how many years of work experience you have?
So I have a total 17 years of work experience. I have worked in almost all industry. I have worked with media. I have worked with big listed conglomerates. I have worked in real estate. I have worked in banking also extensively.
Okay.
And and I have been specialized into compliance, secretarial, governance, and legal framework since entire 17 years journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So normally in any organization, this compliance legal team is generally one single team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here I would like to tell you, many companies have, most of the companies would have a separate legal team, separate secretarial team, and sometimes depending on the industry, they will have a separate compliance team. Okay. So for when I say industry wise, there are dedicated industry which are having a robust requirement of compliance, regulatory compliance. When I say regulatory compliance, like banking, finance, all the total BFSI sector, banking, finance, insurance, these are having a separate regulator. So they have to do, apart from the normal compliances with respect to corporate compliances, business compliances, health and safety compliances, they have to additionally also do the sector compliances. Yes. When I say sector compliances, it is like banking as a banking compliance, insurance as an insurance regulator like IRDA, banking as a RBI, NBFCs, you might have heard about non-banking financial companies. Yes. So they have a separate set of requirements, and there is a dedicated requirement of having a compliance officer. Separately. Okay. So that is the reason most of these BFSI sector companies will have a separate department of compliance. Apart from that, if there are very big conglomerates, you very well know the top 10 listed group compliances, they will also again have a separate compliances, but a mid-size or startups will have a mix of legal and compliance secretarial team. So secretarial and compliance team generally goes single this thing in startups and mid-sized companies, and in big companies and sector companies, it will have all the three different.
Now for the audience, if we can just give an example, like we are looking at three things now: legal, secretarial, and compliance. What is their activity? And with an example, if you can give for all three.
Yeah. So for example, secretarial is more of just the way I am a secretarial company secretary in my current organization. So my role is more into corporate compliances, security compliances, ensuring compliances with respect to meetings, board meetings, general meetings, filings with the register of companies, which is the ROC, which is the regulator for companies, and filings. We do a lot of filings when we do a lot of activities in the companies. When I say activities, like fundraising is there, M&A is there. So these kind of taking approvals from the regulators. Most of the activities also require regulator approvals. Then company secretary also looks after the FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act requirements. And if the company is listed on stock exchanges, then they also have to take compliance requirements of the stock exchange requirements of the under securities law, which is very, very important. So stock exchange compliances will have regulatory periodic filings with exchanges. Then disclosures are required to be filed with exchanges. The kind of results and all those things which are coming to the exchanges are typically done by a company secretary department.
So irrespective of any industry, like you said, any private limited company, public limited company.
Yeah. So basically, basic compliances with respect to minutes, meetings, dealing with the meetings, filings. These are all, whether it is private or public or listed, these are the common compliance requirements. If the company is listed, then stock exchange compliances also gets added in a portfolio. So this is more of and also there are a lot of activities which require procedures to be followed, approvals to be taken. Example which I gave you of fundraising. When I say fundraising, you are the startups which are nowadays taking funds from your private equity players. When we see the deal pakki ho gayi on Shark Tank, so after that the secretarial work gets start with respect to the taking the funds and there are a lot of procedures to be followed. There are very tedious procedures to be followed. Form filing has to be done. Returns have to be filed with respect to the funds being taken. The money has to be, the company secretary has to ensure that the money is utilized for the purpose which is taken.
For which it is taken.
Yes, and then obviously the big daddy of the secretarial work is the IPOs. So all your IPO activities generally taken care by the secretarial team, which is the back-end process to be followed. So this is one of the biggest activity of company secretarial department when the company goes public. So all your recently IPOs or whatever you see, back-end by the entire secretarial, hardcore secretarial department works, and they are the front face for IPO activities in the secretarial. Now coming to legal is having, again, there is a corporate legal, there is a business legal, and their work more is into litigation, non-litigation. When we say litigation, all your court cases and all those things have to be taken care of, whether it is corporate litigation or business litigation. Then in the legal also, where there is separate legal team, they also take care of your IP, intellectual property. So your trademark filing, your infringement of trademark, any litigations with respect to trademark. Then the third in the corporate legal is your agreements. Now agreements, again, it may be a business agreement requirement or your corporate agreements like share purchase agreement, your share transfer agreements and all. Your acquisitions agreement, this thing. And also some portion of appearing towards to the court for M&A and all those things. So it's a blended. Some activities are blended between secretarial and compliance, like M&A, for example. So some department will legal will support some portion of the M&A activity, though it will be driven by the secretarial team when it comes to NCLT, the courts and tribunals and all those things.
I have one question, sorry. So over here, so you said within the legal team, you have a business legal team and a corporate legal.
Corporate legal.
And within the business, it was the IP side, right?
Yeah.
IP was a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And corporate would be if I'm onboarding a vendor, so what agreement I should have?
Yes.
All of these.
All your lease agreements. All your
agreements, everything.
Yes. This is in general, I'm saying.
Yes.
If it is a specific, so also the many things depend on your industry also. For example, for a media company where I was working, lease agreements or this thing will not be a business this thing. Their media agreements will come into picture, registration of trademarks with respect to the IP work of the media content.
Yes.
Just I'm giving an example.
Right.
And for example, currently I'm working in a real estate company right now, listed company. So their bread and butter only is into real estate agreements.
Right.
So also it will depend, but some portions will always be general with respect to, like IP. You said IP is general.
Right.
So IP is not specific to any particular industry. IP is a general vertical, I would say, and obviously it will depend. Some people will have a dedicated IP in-house person working. Or most of the time, it is also managed by third-party vendors or third-party legal firms also, who help us in procuring the registrations and all. Because it's a tedious process again.
Right.
So it requires a lot of paperwork and all those things.
Right.
So also one of the key areas of all these three, secretarial, legal, and compliance and governance, is also to manage the stakeholders. When I say managing the stakeholders, this is a very key area of secretarial department also, where you have to handle investors, you have to handle vendors, you have to handle regulators, you have to handle government agencies. So lot of stakeholder management also comes into the domain of all the three, I would say. Compliance may not be that much, but legal and secretarial prima facie, it happens too much. It's a key area of the work. So it seems maybe it's only as compliance filing, but it's not like that.
No, I got it.
Too much of.
So overall, so we have talked about legal side, we have talked about the secretarial side. Now compliance.
Correct. So now compliance, again, there is a corporate compliance. When I say corporate compliance, it will be business compliance, where again, depending on your industry, you have to. There are so many laws depending on industry to industry, where company has to comply. Like corporate laws, company secretary generally take care of.
Secretarial team
will take care. Securities law, again secretarial team will take care. FEMA laws also secretarial team generally take care. So these three laws are into corporate bucket. Now coming to, you will say, what is the business compliance? So generally all your HR related compliances comes into that. Environment safety comes into that. IT compliance will come into the normal bucket of the business compliances. Or if there is any regulatory specific industry, like I said, I told you about RBI, banking,
insurance,
finance industry. So there, those compliances are separately tackled by the industry expert again. And company conglomerates, big conglomerates are there who are having multiple businesses. There again, you will have a separate corporate compliance department, which will overall take, apart from these three corporate securities law, FEMA, they will have a. Now the more interesting part is how to. There are so many laws in India. So how to handle, how the companies handle those kind of compliances. So there the whole gamut of the things come. And now the focus of the government is also that there is ease of doing compliances. So they are reducing the burden of the corporates by abolishing the redundant compliances which have been there since ages, and also trying to do ease of doing business. One very important function of the company secretary, though the company secretary focuses on particular corporate compliances or securities law compliances, but in the Companies Act as well as the statute, there is a responsibility given now on the professionals at on the board of directors to ensure that there are adequate systems of the compliances, companies having that. And also if any lapses are there, then they are reported to the board and to the stakeholders. So the hard-earned money of the investors who are actually investing in the company, especially the listed companies and all, they know that there are system setup is there. Then also there are checks and balances through audits. So the audit report also there has to be reported. It is to be filed with the government, and they have to give if there are any lapses in the compliances. Now they have the government, after the new act was enacted in 2013. The earlier the company law was governed by 56 Act. So now it is by 2013 Act. So now they have put a clearly cut responsibility on the company secretary of the company as well as the practicing company or the auditor. They have got a concept of secretarial auditor, where the secretarial auditor has to confirm that what are the laws in the company, what are the compliances followed by the company with respect to laws applicable to the company, and whether the adequate systems are there, and if there is any non-compliance, how the reporting is being done. It's not only to bring out whether the penalties, whether the company has non-compliant, but also how the company has rectified that, or what steps have been taken. So there have been checks and balances with respect to that. That is why earlier these departments were seen as a cost center, but now these have become a very important integral part of the overall.
So that is what all compliance will have to do.
Yes, they will have to ensure. So the next step, how to do that, how to ensure, because with the size of the companies and the country which we are right now, though there is a ease of doing business initiatives by the government, but still we are having a lot of
so many rules and regulations
that people are deterring to doing the business in India. So now there are softwares, basically. There are legal software, there are compliance software, there are secretarial softwares.
Which are basically helping you out to do that.
How to monitor. So there are different departments. Finance will have its finance compliances. IT will have its IT compliances. HR will have its HR compliances, employee related labor laws, or these laws and all. So typical compliance monitoring is done in my company right now with the secretarial department, where we monitor the system. System give alerts to the respective departments in the start of the today's first. So the system will throw whatever compliances have to be done by respective functional departments, and then they will have to upload the proofs, and they will have to give a compliance certificate. This is the way the compliance system monitors.
So basically, what would be a typical, because you're kind of a VP now.
Yeah.
So what would be the role of a vice president in a compliance team? What he's doing on a day-to-day basis? If you can give a glimpse of that.
Yes. So my day to day. So I have around 70 companies in my group. It's a
Wow.
mix of it's
Okay.
a mix of public private LLP, listed company, everything is there, and I have a team size of around 12 people to manage in my department, secretarial compliance department. So my typical day, as a in my role as a company secretary, I have to ensure that there is a time, the activities are done in a timely basis, because there is no error, there is no scope for error, because the
Right.
moment you default, you have to directly pay the penalty, or you have to face the this thing. So my typical day goes that I prepare my task, daily task, this thing, and we have allocated people, companies to respective professionals in my team.
Okay.
And obviously for the main flagship company, we have divided the work. So I typically take, in the morning, I take the meeting with them, and I know whatever the routine tasks are there and what are the assignments are there. Apart from the operational routine task, where, as I told you, we are responsible for preparing the minutes, we are responsible for filing the forms.
Right.
Periodic compliance is also there. Not only the event based things are there. So I have generally in our role, we generally segregate what is operational and routine work and what is the assignment based work. When I say assignments also, right from giving birth to the company, till the closing of the operations, winding up, everything is done by secretarial. As I told you, gone are the days that it was a conventional minute writing job of the professional. So we also do incorporation, we do winding up of the companies, we do striking off, then also from conversion of one form to another form of the company, LLP to
private
company.
limited company.
Yes,
Okay.
all those things are there, and respective teams are handling respective work, and they again have to be handled cross functionally also. Like, it's not only secretarial team hai, so secretarial team makes a paper and file, because you have to take a lot of cross functional approvals, lot of cross functional team dependability is there, like accounts have to give the accounts, like that, agreements have to be made by the legal team, so we have to coordinate also. So my typical day goes like, I take the briefing from the team, I give my respective task. Suppose my board meeting got over day before yesterday. After that, what immediate steps have to be done? And then we are also responsible for, now I am going for a SOP model, where I want to go my department into autopilot mode. So I'm doing SOPs also, standard operating procedures. And then obviously, uh, whatever assignments, what stage the assignment has moved on, what are the gaps, and if there are any amendments in the law, then we have to prepare what are the implicabilities, or what is the implication on those amendments to my company, my group. We have to report to my management also. So that all those things takes care of, is taken typically in my role. As I told you, like, if there is a merger assignment, then I have to prepare for that. I have to make sure my department prepare a proper detailed checklist, and the activity checklist and everything is there. All the documents are there, filings are being properly done. Yeah. So that is a typical day.
No, wonderful, really.
Yeah.
And now you also talked about merger, right? So, and you have an experience of doing
Yes.
merger.
Yes.
So, merger in a typical merger and acquisition process, where does compliance sit,
Yeah.
and what is their activity?
Yeah. So merger, so right from conceptualizing the proposal, whether we want to do a merger scheme, or whether we want to go directly under a direct route, without going for merger scheme. So lot of conceptualization is done basis various dependabilities, to determine whether there is a that this before, I would say, the compliance portion starts. First of all, whether it's a viable. When I say viable, because these kind of transactions attract stamp duty also. So whether the project is viable from attractive from stamp duty point of view. Then in mergers also, there are different modes of merger. There is a fast track merger. There is a court process, through a elongated court process. So again, we have to viable, see whether we can fit in the fast track compliance regime, where we have to take a requisite approval of 90% of the shareholders consents and all those things, whether we can fit in that or not. Then whether from stamp duty point of view, after the merger order is there, stamp duty from calculation point of view, whether it is viable or not. So a detailed process note is prepared and evaluated by the management from all perspective, from tax perspective, from stamp duty perspective, from compliance cost perspective, from timeline perspective. Basis that a detailed roadmap is being prepared, and then basis that after all the evaluation, there is a in many group companies, many big conglomerates, there is, you will be surprised to know there are M&A teams also.
Now, somebody who wants to get into something, a role similar to yours, what's the qualification he should have?
Yeah.
Okay, and have you seen? So you have done CS and law. Are only people from these two fields coming? Are people coming from outside into
Yeah.
this role also? Can you give us some idea on that?
Yeah. So typically, I would just divide the again for ease of this thing. Company secretary like CA or CWA, it has to be passed out by company secretary department, company Institute of Company Secretaries of India. As I had earlier told you, there is a institute, icsi.edu is the website,
Okay.
and from there you will get the prospectus and the details of that. So it's a recognized this thing without. It's a requirement under the law only that qualified company secretary from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India only can become a company secretary of the company.
Okay.
Department may have semi-graduates, semi-qualified also, or people who have not done CS course but they have experience in the secretarial team. But
they can also come and
yeah, but most of the companies now the law is becoming too complex now. So before, like half semi-qualified or graduates, generally for big companies, people don't entertain now.
Right.
Earlier,
but you will find CAs also coming and sitting in.
So I'll come to that. So typically, the some of the work is something like where even the cross functionality the professionals are allowed to do, in a sense, like for example incorporation of a company,
right,
or incorporation of a LLP. You might have seen in the form, if you would have seen, which is framed by the government, then CS, advocate, everyone can do.
Okay.
But typically these functions, the taxation and accounts functions are being handled by CA. The secretarial functions generally have been done, but in practice, one thing I missed to tell you, like there is something called as employment company secretary and practicing company secretary. Practicing is that you are doing your own firm and own business, own this thing. And company secretary is more into second is who is into employment. So practicing in the practicing field, whether it is a practicing CA or practicing advocate or practicing company secretary, they generally depending on their acumen on their practice, this thing, government has given that these kind of activities can be done by all the three. Okay. Like that. Okay. But in the employment, company secretary job can be done only by company secretary.
Okay, but that okay, for a particular company, how many company secretaries can be there?
So it depends on the size of the business, size of the conglomerate, size of the company, size of the requirement. Ideally, for small companies, startups, people generally hire one or two company secretaries or three company secretaries, and most of the work in the initial phase is being done by practicing professional outsourced.
Right.
Then the way the company size grows, then if they're coming after the IPO, they are going to become big company, and the size of the compliance and the group companies are going to be more. Right. Then they prefer to have in-house companies. Right. So if you see top 5, top 10 companies, they will have around 100 company secretaries also. Right. In a medium-sized company, they may be having 10, 11. In my group, I have 11 company secretaries. Right. Okay, who are hardcore into secretarial into the secretarial department. So it all depends on your business. All depends upon your how much work is there. In my banking stint, there were 5 company secretaries because there was only one bank and 2 subsidiaries, 3 subsidiaries.
But the point that you mentioned, this is only for the compliance team.
Secretarial team, compliance team.
Both company secretarial team and compliance.
Yeah. Again, secretarial compliance, as I was telling you, many companies will not have a dedicated separate compliance team who are into the start of their this thing.
Okay.
They generally they outsource. Most of the time they outsource to the specialized firms who are managing compliance this thing. Okay. And depending on the size, then yes, team size will depend on for the compliance also. Like compliance will have 4 to 5 people, like that.
And with respect to legal team,
yes,
what
legal
qualification is it only
legal? No, legal, it's a mix, because legal initially it can be blended with the secretarial. If I am a lawyer and a company secretary, in the initial phase they don't want to spend that much, so they will say, okay, you handle and we will give you support of the law firms also. But more the size of the industry will size of the business will grow. Then typically it may vary 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever the number can go at any this thing. But they have to manage the law for lawyers, the external side also as well as the internal side also.
Right.
So they are typically called as general counsels nowadays. Legal heads are called general counsels.
Yes.
So they have to manage, as I said, they're more into managing the teams, managing the litigation, non-litigation, as I told you, and the external counsels work also.
Okay. And now suppose if somebody wants to join this team of legal compliance, what are the core skill set that he should have?
Yeah.
As per your understanding.
Yeah. So typically the person should have good knowledge on the on the craft of drafting in secretarial. It is very important because many times most of the times we have to draft the paper, and it will be in-house only most of the times.
Okay.
So drafting skills have to be this thing, analyzing the laws, analyzing the compliance from the assignment if any activity is given. For example, IPO, for example, fundraising, for example, M&A. The person should be able to understand the industries. Person should be able to understand the structuring of the group in which the person is working. He should have basic understanding of what all things can be can be there with respect to one assignment. What all laws can attract. So he should have that kind of understanding.
Right.
And interpretation of the law should be there. So this I am saying from legal and for secretarial both. And compliance, of course, the person should have a good skill set of the overall industry the person is going to work. For example, real estate. So he should have a good grasp of the real estate laws.
Right.
He should have that understanding of environmental laws, like that. So these are the skill sets required for that.
Now, what are the general questions that people ask in interviews?
Yeah.
When they come for a compliance team or a secretarial
team. So typically, if it is a listed company, and the candidate is going to work for the listed space, he should have a good knowledge of the listing regulations. Securities listing regulations are there by Securities Exchange Board of India, SEBI. This thing, because now the requirement has been multifold with respect to the disclosures which we have to file with exchanges time and again for each and every activity a company does. There are multiple disclosures to be filed. Then there are very specific, very complex areas of secretarial work which I have not even spoken to you, like related party transactions. There is one scope where there is a huge focus of the government that the money is not being misused by the corporates. Basically,
that kind of questions are also asked.
Yes, definitely, because this area is very lucrative area, and it's a very easy area to overdo, and the laws are very stringent and complex in these kind of areas. Then obviously, as I told you, the drafting skills are there. Whether we will ask them to prepare resolutions, draft some resolution to understand how they score on the drafting, what is the understanding. Then some companies where I have joined or I have worked, I have got experience. They will give you a hypothetical assignment that there is a fundraising requirement or there is some kind of thing, and they tell us what all compliance is you will follow. So they will understand how analytical the candidate is, how much he can think. If it's a foreign entity which is there, or my Indian entity is owned by foreign controller, then whether the person is also looking at Foreign Exchange Management Act compliance, whether the person is also able to see from the listing SEBI compliance or not. So they will generally give one liner that if company wants to invest in so and so, now tell us what are the compliance to be done. Then the person should have a basic understanding of minute writing, agenda preparation of the board, committee, all those things. And then there are a lot of conditions and stipulations and provisions of various all these statutes and all. So we typically try to quiz them, basically giving these kind of situations and all, to understand how much the person has read. Also, one of my favorite question is on the amendments, because if you say daily, nowadays the government is so proactive. I would say any damn thing happens in the industry, they will just come with new amendments. So whether the person is knowing the new amendments or not. So that is our favorite topic that person is updated or not, because my management may ask me any moment.
Right.
The person has to be updated. He cannot give me a 2-month-old,
continuous
3-month-old.
learning is
Continuous
also there.
learning. That is very important. I have to dedicate at least 2 hours or 1 hour daily of my schedule for continuous learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one very different question. Suppose if you're starting your career now and you want to become a group head of compliance, how will you go ahead and do it?
Very good question. I have always mentored or from my own journey, and I have always told students also, whether it is a CS student or compliance student or from legal field, that always try to take experience in growing companies, or not startup but growing companies, and don't just be illusioned or just see the overall perks that I will become the board of director person or I will become the KMP person directly, because this is what generally our profession shows from outside. But the person should be ready to grill. The person should ready to give that kind of way. We have articleship, we have internship like CA.
Right.
So training basically.
Right.
The person should do a dedicated training, and it should not happen that person just see the package or this thing like I'm getting a head position directly in the start of my career, so I will just go for that. Somebody is paying me 6 times the other employer. But you have to go with the path of learning, which is very, very important. Take good experience from good companies, whether the company it may not be a very big company, it may be growing company. With growing company, you'll get growing opportunities.
Yes.
And even if you are at a manager level and you are not at a head level initially, you should not just for that. As I said, you have to balance between your career, your work balance, I would say, your ambition and this thing. So this is what I have followed, that initially take the go with the growing phase and take enough experience from overall, that automatically will make you grow at this thing. So I have never been a fan of, or I have never been into the illusion that somebody is giving me say X amount, so I will just jeopardize.
So gradual learning is
Very important, and don't take shortcuts. I would say don't be in hurry to just scale yourself without understanding, because the law and the position is very, very complex today. Even the senior most people who are there in the industry, in the profession, even they are struggling today, because the law has become so complex.
Right.
So this is generally a question what we have asked for youngsters, basically, not to see the one side of the thing, but go into the actual grind of the thing and then take the path, rather than taking shortcuts of this thing. Otherwise, without having the proper understanding of the knowledge or the experience, the position may get jeopardized, and it's very dangerous.
And it's also a very critical role
It's
that
a
you're
very
doing.
critical role. One of the most critical roles. People don't give that kind of understanding. They don't have understanding, but it's one of the most critical roles.
Right.
When I say critical, from the business point of view, from the company point of view, and from the government point of view, because we are deputed by the government only for conscience keeping, in a way.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, interesting, wonderful. I mean, this entire conversation will give, because I also learned so many things in today's conversation with respect to secretarial work and all.
Yes.
So obviously the audience will, who are actually interested into this space,
Yes,
they would also love the podcast that we are doing right now. And thank you again, Bhavik, for taking out time and talking to us, giving us the view that what is there in that different world of compliance.
Yes, and it's not only we are not only the cost center, as I said. Now there is a huge the way the government is seeing and the way the global thing is happening. As I was saying, now something called as business responsibility and sustainability reporting is being introduced. Environmental social responsibility governance framework has been introduced. So it's not only limited to the conventional role now. So one should also understand that this role is now going to encompass widely in the days to come and the years to come. So this people should take it as an opportunity and explore, I would say. Thank you so much.
No, definitely. Thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us.